Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're calling in from. It's 12 o'clock here on the East Coast. I'm Kathy O'Leary. I am the co-moderator for Friends of Sabeel North America in New Jersey. I'm also the region coordinator for Pax Christi in New Jersey here as well. Really happy that you could all join us on short notice. This came together very quickly for us as well. It actually started with a call from folks in the West Bank. We had heard that people were trying to hold a press conference in Jenin and were prevented from doing so because of all the military activity. They were trying to bring faith leaders together to hold a press conference. So we decided to hold our own. I hope you find this informative and interesting and motivating, and that you share the stories that you hear today. So I'm going to turn this over now to Jesse Wheeler, who's our Director of Operations for FOSNA, who's going to say a few words and start us with he and Karima Tarazi from Palestinian Christian Alliance for Peace are going to start us with a prayer.
Welcome, everyone. We're just going to go straight into sharing one of the wave of prayers. So every week, Sabeel releases a series of often very profound prayers. And so we're just going to read. So Karima, I'm going to ask you if you can read the first part. I will respond, but if you can listen as we go.
Last week, in the third week of invasions into the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces killed at least 5 Palestinians. 3 people were killed in a drone attack on a vehicle in the city of Tulkarm, while another was killed by an Israeli sniper in the Farah refugee camp near the city of Tubas. The killings took the overall death toll from Israel's large-scale militarized operation launched in the West Bank on August 28 to at least 50. The figure included several people who were killed in an air attack in Tubas. In Tulkarm, the IOF also abducted 5 Palestine Red Crescent Society paramedics.
God of mercy, we come before you with heavy hearts, grieving the loss of life and the unrelenting violence that has engulfed the West Bank. We pray for the people of Tulkarm, Tubas, the Farah refugee camp, and elsewhere in the West Bank who endure the constant threat of violence and death. Shield them, O Lord, from the devastation that surrounds them. In the face of military power and occupation, we ask for your divine intervention to break the cycles of violence. Lord, in your mercy,
hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Jesse and Karima, and thank you to Sabeel for these very powerful prayers that they write every single week, and that's just one of the litany of prayers that they offer every week. So I urge you to go to their website and look those up. And just before we jump into our speakers, the thing that I want you to think about and to keep holding your minds and your hearts is that what we've been seeing, the devastation that we've been seeing in Gaza has moved, not is moving, it has moved to the West Bank. And that is what we were seeing in the last 2 weeks in Jenin, Tulkarm, and other places. So, and we've gathered some folks here today who can bear witness to that. So we're going to start with Alice Kisiyah, who is a Palestinian who has unique that she has Israeli citizenship, and she is in a fight with her family to save their land in El Makrur. Go ahead, Alice.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me. It's my honor. Thank you, Kathy. As you all know about the story, and since the 31st of July, and the settlers are hiding behind the military order to steal more lands, supported by the JNF. Um, I'm working with all the strategies and legally, socially, just bringing more people. Since they took over our tent as well, the last 2 weeks, they are personalizing the military order on my family. They are allowing other people to enter the area, like settlers and another neighbors. And the minute that they see me there, they get really confused. So I will try to be short because I don't want to take long because I know there are lots of people are going to talk. But we are witnessing the devil itself, and I'm fighting till the last breath, and I'm doing my interfaith solidarity. I want to invite you all to be with us. We are doing it in many countries in USA, Germany, France, Canada, Australia, and many other countries on the 29th of September. We're gonna pray. We're gonna ask the Lord to give us strength to fight back. And I hope that the Western people just really know that this is not a religious war. It's ethnic cleansing. It's not about Muslims or Jews. It's about only the Zionist system that fighting everyone. Um, so I hope, and I have a big hope that I'm gonna get back my land. And this case, it's gonna unfold many cases that the JNF has been doing uh, since decades by stealing lands. And I'm sure it's gonna take time, but I'm gonna get it back. And with the help of the people and their solidarity around the world, we will achieve justice and bring peace, a peace to Palestine and the Holy Land.
Thank you, Elise. And
Thank you so much.
would you just share a little bit about uh, the legal process? Because I understand you have gone through a court process similar to what the Tent of Nations is doing now. That you've actually gone through that process and you have a ruling from the court. Would you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, on the 2023, we got the decision, the court decision that recognize our documents that issued from the civil administration from 2014, saying that this is for my father that heritage from one of the guys, which is from our tribe. And this thing that the judge recognized, and they were giving the court a fake documents, the GNF. They were giving the court a fake documents and saying that they bought it since 69. And they said that this agreement was in the archive of the state. So when we went to the archive of the state, we find this agreement or the page, it's empty. So that's why the judge recognized our document and said that the land still under the name of its owner and was not sold. So in this time of period, because war, they are taking advantage of the war and the power of military. So the military orders are now controlling everything, and they are above the court. That's why they are taking advantage of using these military orders in the West Bank as well.
Thank you, Elise, for highlighting that, and I
Thank you.
think it's important for us to understand that I think it was even in Haaretz there was a an op-ed that said that there is no rule of law anymore, or as if there ever was, but there is no rule of law in the West Bank. That they compared it to the Wild West. So So thank you for, sir, for telling, illuminating that, for particularly for Americans, that even going to the courts is not an option for Palestinians, even Palestinians with Israeli citizenship. So
I just want, sorry.
go ahead.
I just want to mention that this is the last Christian village, and it's very important for us as Christians here in Bethlehem. That's why I'm planning and I'm willing to build the first church in this area. And I will, because every time the settlers would think that they would steal or do anything wrong, we would ring the bell to remind them that we are here.
Thank you. Thank you for your witness. Thank you for your steadfastness, your samud. And we'll be looking forward to the actions that are happening on the 29th. I know there's one planned in DC. I know there's one planned in New York City that I'll be helping with. And I think there's some in California as well. So I'm going to turn it over now to Emily Debinie, who was born in Nazareth, raised in Jerusalem, but now lives in California.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for attending to hear the voices of Palestinians. Even though I was born in Nazareth and raised in Jerusalem, I also have a family that lives all over Palestine. We are Christian Palestinians, which Americans seems to have erased us for some reason. They think we don't exist. But what's important is, like, since October 2023, the Israeli occupying forces have been invading Palestinian West Bank towns. They've been razing their streets, destroying the infrastructure, cutting off sources of water and power, looting the banks so people can't get cash in their hands. Even if I send my family, my cousin, money to Bethlehem, she can't receive it because there's no cash in the banks. So they bulldozed shops like the one outside in Jenin. I'm going to show you here a photo. So as you can see, this is the Latin Patriarch. So you can see how the shops are destroyed, the streets are razed, and it affects the businesses and the schools. So what's happening, because we have relatives in Zababdeh. Zababdeh is a very small town locating southeast of Jenin. So in order for my relatives to go to their homes, they need to go through Jenin. But unfortunately, the streets are razed. So there has been incidents where also a friend of mine couldn't get to her house for days. They have to find a very dangerous route and go around the main streets. A lot of my relatives can't go to work or school. But what's really sad, Zababdeh has about 75% of the population that are Christians. There's about 4 churches there: Roman, Latin Catholics, Greek Orthodox Church, Orthodox Catholic Church, and an evangelical church, but it's a much smaller. There's also Catholic school in Little Zababdeh, and the main street is even called Church Street, Shara al-Kanisa, and it connects the village to like other towns nearby. Unfortunately, on August 30th, 2 rockets were dropped on a house next to my aunt's family in Zababdeh, and it missed them by 2 houses. 2 people did die. I don't know who they are, but it's just thinking that it got so close to people that I know, besides the relatives that I have in Gaza, who also have suffered immense loss. Everyone I know in Gaza have lost their homes, but to see it that it's now moving to Bethlehem and to Zababdeh, it's like a small little town. Leave them alone. They've been there. That little town in history dates back to the Byzantine era. So it's like since back to the year 528. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. They have done nothing wrong. They deserve to live, to go to school, to have their shops safe. But they're just going rogue, free for all. Grab whatever you want. And most of my cousins have not worked since October 2023. Even if they live in Jerusalem, they are scared. A lot of them are also scared to, I have relatives in Beit Jala. They are scared to leave their homes. They're scared to get out of their place to go see family, or to even, like, it's a risk every time they're going to work. And a lot of them work in tourism, and so they have not made any money at all because of that. So it's not just like it's affecting their safety, it's affecting their property, it's also affecting their mental health. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Emily, for coming and sharing your story, and sharing the trauma of your trauma, the trauma of your family. We know this is difficult, but we appreciate that you're willing to do this, for the people back home, and for the people in the Palestinians in the diaspora as well. So thank you very much, Emily, for your story. Thank you for being
and Zababdeh is not near Bethlehem. I'm sorry. That's closer. That's closer to the north. It's it's a little bit far from Bethlehem.
Zababdeh is closer to Jenin, right?
Yeah, so it's just like right next to Jenin.
Okay. Thank you. So our next speaker is a professor of political science at Birzeit University. His name is, political science and international relations at Birzeit University. His name is Ibrahim Bahaia.
Bahaia.
Bahaia. Thank you. And thank you for being here with us today.
My pleasure, Kathy. Thank you for everybody. My pleasure of being here. I think it's complicated to talk about the situation in West Bank now, because everything is going rapidly. There's a dramatic situation, not since October 7th, 2023. There is pressure on West Bank and high level of violence by the occupation forces and settlers for the last 4 years at least. I'm talking mainly about the Jordan Valley, about some specific areas like Hawara, like Tormos Aya. These villages were attacked by settlers. Now we call it like the settlers state in West Bank. It is kind of independent, semi-independent institutions which are leading this project and protected by the government. The Minister of Finance and the Minister in the Ministry of Defense, Smotrich, is the leader of this project in the formal institutions. And there is a high level of repression for Palestinians. In Jenin, Tul Karim in the north, there was kind of attacks, deep attacks for infrastructure. In July, there was a very big invasion in July 2023. And there is a blockade, not only in West Bank in general, but on specific areas. For example, the economy of the northern governance of West Bank, Jenin, Tul Karim, Nablus, depends on interaction, economic exchange with Palestinians inside Israel. There is no access to these cities for the last 2 years at least. There is also a blockade on specific cities like Nablus. We can say there is 4 gates, 4 checkpoints on the main entrances for the city. Mostly they are closed, or there is like a very, very difficult restrictions, very high restrictions on going inside the city. Al-Khalil, we are talking about in Hebron, we are talking about 120 checkpoints around and within the government. And, you know, Hebron is one of the main economic cities in Palestine. So there is a very, very difficult economic situation. There is insecurity. There is a lack of rule of law, even within the Area A, because there is no ability for the PA to work there. There is no ability to work for the Palestinian police, for the institutions, to, you know, for even judiciary system. Also, we are talking about 750 checkpoints in the West Bank in general. I'm from Jenin mainly, and I'm staying in Ramallah. I couldn't visit my my city Jenin, which is 100 kilometers only, for the last year more than 3 times, because there is uncertainty. Because if I reach there, I'm not sure if I can go back to my work. On the street, even when I go, I don't know what will happen in the next hour or next even minute, by settlers, by, you know, the Israeli occupation army. So the situation is very complicated. There is a very, very difficult even situation for people. No hope, no hope. People are losing hope now here, and they lose even trust with international law, international institutions. Any change, even from outside, they feel that they are alone against this. What happened in Jenin, Tul Karem, Tubas, by using infrastructure as a weapon, there is a collective punishment for people, as Emily, I think, showed the church in Jenin. This is the downtown of Jenin. This is the heart, the economic heart of the city. And they destroyed everything. They destroyed everything. And until now, even there was, you know, solidarity from people from the region. They came to Jenin to repair everything fastly, but there is no economic capabilities to repair everything. And they told them, the Israeli occupation army, they told them, don't repair everything, we are coming back. Now, when I talk about Jenin camp, for example, there is forced migration in Jenin camp. There was 15,000 living there. Now we are talking about 2,000 for max. People moved out of the camp. They're forced to leave their houses. The life is impossible inside the camp. So there is collective punishment. There is no hope, and you know, there is kind of talking about resistance, about something organized. No, there is a cases in the West Bank. There is no balance between this power and any kind of resistance here in the West Bank. Not since not for the last year only, for the last 4 years. So this kind of trying to find security solutions to repress Palestinians failed before in the second intifada, in the first intifada, and we need more pressure to force Israel to go to a political solution. Thank you.
And Ibrahim, would you just talk a little bit about the situation with the universities? I understand.
Yeah.
Birzeit was attacked, and
so we recently did a report with the FPO, me and my colleague Dr. Lordis Habash, about edicide for universities in Gaza. the mass destruction and the systematic targeting for universities there, I can send you this report to share it with our colleagues. It's my pleasure. We can talk about this deeply later also. In the West Bank, we have several challenges. The first challenge now is that the security situation. Our students are not able to, or they don't guarantee that they can reach the university. Many universities for the last semester worked online. And this is a challenge because we are talking about the quality of education, mainly in natural sciences, is very difficult. Birzeit University, we worked on trying to make education regular, but was very challenging because for example, many students who come from the surrounding villages around Birzeit, in like the morning they close the checkpoint for no reason, no previous even warning for this. It could be an exam for the student. This is one of the challenges. The second challenge, which is very important now, and now we are feeling in this, the economic situation. Like the enrollment rate for the Palestinian universities for this year, I think it is the lowest ever, because priority for people is to live now. Many people, we are talking about around 200,000 lost their work in the Israeli labor market. We are talking about problem in the salaries of public sector. Also, we are talking about, and our colleague, she was talking about remittances from outside. There's problem in transforming money from outside. Also, the economic exchange between Palestinian market and Palestinians inside Israel now almost stopped. So these are the sources of the economic cycle here. So we have problem in all of the components, not one component. We suffered from this before in one component to come. Okay, so we can make balance. But now I think this is the worst economic crisis we ever faced. And if there is no immediate solutions for this, I think the impact will be much difficult. So education, of course, impacted by this, mainly for us also in social sciences. We face this more than natural sciences also, because we have global problem in social sciences. We have we have challenge in general. So now we have more complicated challenges in this. We are trying to find solutions, but we have to survive. This is related to education. So now we are in the situation of de-developing the education system here in Palestine. In Jenin, Tulkarem, for example, Tubas also. In Tulkarem, they couldn't start the new year for the schools on time because there was invasion, there was the security problem for the students. So I think there was a delay 1 week, and this happened also with the high school, the Tawjih exams in last June in Jenin, in Tulkarem. They couldn't sit to their exams on time. So there was makeup exams later.
Thank you for sharing all of that with us, Ibrahim, and thank you for coming, and all of our speakers.
My pleasure.
And our next speaker is Omar Haramy. He is the director of the Sabeel Ecumenical Liberation Theology Center, and Sabeel is an ecumenical grassroots liberation theology movement that deepens the faith of Palestinians, promotes unity, and guides Palestinians to engage for justice and peace. Welcome, Omar.
Thank you for having me, Kathy. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces. I've been asked to brief about the delegations that have been coming to the Holy Land, to Palestine, Israel, and what people have been saying. On one of the delegations, the most shocking scene for me was when we were in the Jordan Valley, and there was a Bedouin community of around 70 people that was just packing their stuff and leaving, putting their stuff on the trucks and moving more and leaving, abandoning the Jordan Valley, their land, their property, and taking their families and the cattle to go inside more in depth in the West Bank, close to Tubas. And the man said, since these settlers came in, my children have been in the hospital because of dehydration. The little kids have been throwing out all day and they are dehydrated because of the stress. Kids who are like 5 or 6 years old. I know because my son has a nervous stomach, and I know that that when kids panic and they feel frightened, it's a very sad scene. It's not how life should be for little children. So when people, in theory, what we believe is that when there are an international presence, a third party present in the Holy Land, that both Palestinians and Israelis would act more responsibly or try to avoid using violence, knowing that they are being watched. It's a tactic that has been used in different parts of the world to have this protective presence of internationals. People usually behave better when the world is watching. And since October 7th, there has been courageous members from the international community who have been saying, we know that it is dangerous, we know that it is not safe, it is not wise, but yet we want to come and be present on the ground. And many of these groups are faith-based, mainly Christians, but many of our Muslim and Jewish friends have been part of these delegations. In addition to the last delegation where we had Hindus, Buddhists, and people from different traditions. So I don't know, it's everybody sees things in a different way, but what I assume that people are watching from the bus or when they're walking in the streets and we're speaking with the communities, you see and you feel fear. There's a lot of fear in Palestine and Israel, but especially among the Palestinian communities. There's a lot of anger and frustrations. There's a sad feeling of loss of hope, uncertainty. You can also feel and see violence, settlers with guns moving around. You see the army bullying people, bullying even the international community that are present. But you also can feel and see the appreciation, hospitality of stubborn people who are committed to nonviolence, who are committed for not to surrender hope, but they believe that they can change and overcome the realities. You know, in Palestine, we have different kinds of people, like every community. And when people are here in Palestine and Israel, you can see and meet people who are trying to leave the country. They believe that it's just unbearable every morning to wake up to a different battle. And this has not been a year or so, and it has been their life story. They want safety for their children. They want to be able to live normal, and they see no hope in the international community. We've lost hope in the ethics of the international community to put an end to this nonsense that continues to be the dispossession of our people. You also see, actually, and it's very sad, you see some Palestinians who are collaborating with the occupation, whether selling products of the Israeli products, or even some Palestinians who serve in the Israeli army, or people who are just surrender and become part of the system. They understand that the power is with the Israeli occupation, and in a way they become collaborators. You also you feel people who are disconnected from reality. You know, they seem that they're living in Palestine exactly the same way that people are living in Los Angeles or New York or Vienna or London. You know, it's trying to go to church or to work or to school, just trying to live every day, running their errands. People exactly as if it's a different continent. And sadly, there's many like this. But also you see people who are resisting. And when people come to visit us, because we want people to see the resistance and to empower the resistance, you know, it's people resist different ways. Some people believe that armed struggle could be the way to fight evil. Others believe that it is if you want to fight evil, you need to fight it with goodness. This is what scripture tells us, and we believe that nonviolence is a way of goodness, is a way of loving your enemy, loving your neighbor, believing that we need to disconnect or dismantle the cycle of evil and hatred. And there are many people who feel that that it is nonviolence is still a legitimate tool, is the only tool. Of course, we're being ridiculed by many. Because as you say, when we go to the international community, we say, let's respect the declarations that have been signed by our governments, by our intellectuals, where we have spent billions and billions of dollars to developing a world structure. It seems that this system is broken. The US can veto it and say this is not applicable to Israel, not applicable to us. These laws were made for you guys, not for us. You find also a world that does not respect human lives. And they believe that it's the only way to deal with the enemy is to crush it. And you crush it by more force. And this is what Israel continues to do. It's a tactic. We need to remind the world that we are the most powerful. The more violent you become with Israel, we can double it down. We can increase, we can go 100 times fold more violent. And this is what is happening. The idea is that Israel would booby trap cell phones or phones, thousands in Lebanon that they blew up in the houses, in the shopping centers with people, children dying, people losing their limbs, children dying, students at hospitals, all of these explosions to put small bombs in everybody's pocket without accountability. This is like one of the most scariest terrorist attacks that we've seen, and we've seen many terrorist attacks here in the Middle East. Yet when the international community comes and accepts it and provides impunity, it continues this cycle. So also what you do not see is you don't see a respect for human rights when you are here in Palestine. You do not see a country that adheres to international law or to the signed agreements. You find a country that and its army and its settlers that are getting, you know, it's a permit and a license to kill and to demolish and disregards human lives. So there are many things that you can see and many things that you do not see. And we're in this middle of the storm, trying to be seen more than others, trying to be impactful more than others. It's a race between, I believe, in good, where we want everybody to nourish, everybody to live happily together with human rights, and a group of people who wants to cancel the other, feels threatened by the other and wants to completely destroy the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar, for sharing that with us. And I just hear the frustration, the sadness in your voice, and a lot of people have been asking in the chat about trauma, and you touched on it a bit when you talked about the impact on the children, but the trauma, the fear, the anxiety. How is that something that you all are dealing with? How are you coping with that? And is there any way that we can help?
I mean, honestly, like if you walk and you speak with the Palestinians, yes, there is trauma. I mean, if you're aware of what this word means, but most of us are not aware of the trauma. It's one trauma from one another. So I feel being, having the ability to diagnose yourself with trauma, and to treat it is also a luxury that we do not afford. We are in the middle of a genocide. Now, what you Americans and as our friends, I know that it is not your fault, but in a way it is your fault. What is happening to us is happening through US bombs. What is happening to you is by the US putting their foot down and saying Israel has impunity towards international law. What is happening to us because the US is not even respecting their own laws of exporting weapons and dealing weapons. It's you are funding these settler movements and giving your fellow US American citizens, and sometimes it's by faithful Christian people, getting tax refunds for donating money and drones for the torture of these Palestinian kids. You are part of the system. I mean, it's like how you, in a way, it's a very difficult way to say it because this is not the crowd that we should be preaching to. You're our friends and family, but you can help us by stop killing us and dispossessing us and giving a license for us as a nation. This is becoming too much. We are disappearing. We are being broken, and we're even being forced not to even disappear. We are being forced to not to the only way to see America is as an enemy, America and the Americans, alongside as Israel as an enemy that you cannot live with, that you cannot find a space for peace or reconciliation. It's very difficult, it's when 2-ton bombs are thrown on tens of people are being burnt alive. You speak and you give a standing ovation for a president who admits and is trying to create a legitimate to legalize the rape of prisoners in Israeli jails. Both Democrats and Republicans give a standing ovation. There is something wrong with America. You're not letting us live. And we are a small group of people living in a small land that it is being blessed, that it is holy, so that people can pay attention to what has happened and what is happening to us. But there's so many layers of injustice taking place in many parts of the world. The empire needs to repent. I don't know how you can help us to do this, but you are part of, I know it's not the same. It's not you who. I wish I was speaking to this idiot Biden or the other idiot Kamala or the other idiot Trump, it is or the people. These are the people that we should be addressing, but they don't listen to us.
Yeah, and actually that characterizing us as the empire, I think it's important for us to be using that language. And thank you for giving us that language, you and Mitri Raheb and Reverend Munter Itzhak, giving us the language to start speaking about this in terms of us being at the center of empire, and being complicit. And even though we are here hosting you today, that we are complicit in these actions. So if you have questions, I urge you to put your questions in the chat. We'll be pulling them out of the chat. So there is a question about the women's cooperatives and whether or not they are surviving. The women's cooperatives, the agricultural cooperatives, how are they surviving under this new onslaught?
Sorry, this question's target is addressed to who?
Oh, I don't know if either you or Ibrahim can answer that, Omar.
Yeah, I think the economic situation. We have we have problem in movement and transportation and in moving even goods from area to area. So the costs are now higher than before. also there is restrictions to reach your land when we talk about agricultural women cooperations. The business model in general in Palestine now is facing a challenge because it depended on unfortunately new liberal approach. So the collaborative initiatives were facing no support. Needed support was not enough. So now people are trying to move back to some initiatives, but the challenge is much bigger than any individual initiative to solve.
So, and there's a few announcements coming up in the chat as well. There's going to be a virtual delegation, the Stones Cry Out delegation coming up, and there are delegations from the U.S. that are still going to the West Bank. So please stay in touch with Sabeel, with FOSNA, to see when it is that those delegations happen. There are also multiple report backs from people who have been on delegation. I don't know if Emily, there's any last words you want to give before we close out.
Thank you all for being loud. Please share. This is a genocide. The Christians and Muslims, Druze, and Baha'is are being ethnically cleansed from the Holy Land. Everyone is being pushed out. So please speak up on behalf of our relatives. Please share the stories of what's happening to the Christians in the churches of Gaza so people understand that this is not just about religion, really. And, also share Alice's as much as you can, please. I know some people are scared to speak up because of work. I don't want to work anymore. I don't want to pay taxes because it's going to torture my family. So I appreciate your voices. Thank you so much. And feel free to reach out for any questions.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. And I'd just like we're going to close out with Sister Barbara Batista, who recently returned from a delegation. She has some words to share with us.
Hi, yeah, thank you, Kathy, I appreciate that. And all the words we've heard and the testimonials, and yeah, our work continues for sure. I just returned from Palestine about 10 days ago, and I heard from Tanya Nasser. She's the godmother and actually the aunt of Leon Nasser, who's been arbitrarily detained since April 7th. Detained is a euphemism for incarcerated without charges or evidence. Tanya's words speak to me of the pervasive, dehumanizing emotional environment for everyone touched by this horror, this occupation, this trauma. And so I quote, "We fear the worst. The Israeli mind is plotting our end. I wonder what they are thinking, the settlers who watch me as I water my plants. The land is our mother. Connection is almost physical. Our olive trees are being butchered, our homes bombed. Their dream is a nightmare for us, but it must also be a nightmare for them. Why should Leanne be in prison? This isn't just a political issue, it's an existential issue for them and for us." And then she went on to say, people like you, and she was talking to this international multi-faith delegation sponsored by Sabeel, people like you trying to feel, trying to help. Our only hope is your anger. I pray your anger reaches your government. End quote.
Thank you, Sister Barbara, for helping us bring another Palestinian voice into the room. And I'm so pleased and honored that Omar, Emily, Ibrahim, and Alice, that they could all be with us today to share their stories, to share the stories of our brothers and sisters, and siblings in Palestine, so that the blinders can be removed, that the beam can be removed from our eye, so that we can understand that we are at the center of empire, and that these are the actions that we are doing, that we become angry with a righteous and just anger, and that we begin to work or recommit ourselves to work even harder to end our complicity in this violence. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. We're almost at the hour. We appreciate you all taking the time to be with us and to hear these stories. Jesse, is there any final words you want to share?
Really, I just wanted to invite everyone. Immediately following this, there is it's called the Stones Cry Out virtual delegation, but it's been all summer, and this is the final one. It's been a series of very good interviews with key leaders, either here in the U.S. or in Palestine. The one following here in about 5 minutes, and you're all invited to. I put the link in the chat. I'll do that again. It's with conversation with Mark Braverman and Jonathan Kutab. So some of you may know very well, but the director of Friends of Sabeel North America, Jonathan Kutab, and the director of Kairos USA, Mark Braverman. A great conversation following up on this, on ways to respond and how people have been responding. And so I'm gonna put that link there. And if you have the time, I recommend joining us over on that link. So thank you.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining, and hopefully you'll join FOSNA at the following at the event that comes right after this one. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate you being here today.